title is Confessions of a Reformed Driver. Her timing's 5 to 7 minutes. Please help me welcome Ming Ma, Confessions of a Reformed Driver. Ming Ma.
Yay.
If you were to come to my parents' house, the minute you walk in, you will be greeted by a glass display case showing what an only child I was. There's scholar athlete, perfect attendance for 4 years, fastest typist, UCLA Chancellor's Award, UCSF Alumni Scholar. But in the midst of all my glory, my mom also posted my most talked about award, the craziest driver. Fellow Toastmasters, I'm here today to set the record straight. I used to live dangerously, but now there are certain driving rules that I abide by because I am now older. I started driving when I was 16. I got into my first accident that same year. I had just passed the written portion, and the whole world was my oyster. I pleaded to my dad for a spin around the neighborhood. How else am I going to master driving if I don't practice? He softened. We took his Honda Civic hatchback and loaded the family dog. For most of you who have been driving for years or even months, when you see a red light, you automatically lift your foot from the accelerator. After several hours of instructed driving, I still have to process. Oh, red light, that means stop, which means that there'll be cars coming through the intersection, which could potentially turn into a hazardous situation here. So I should lift my leg from the accelerator. Now, which is the accelerator, which is the brake, which is the clutch again? That afternoon, after circling the street up and down several times for almost an hour, I was ready to make a right turn. With my dad as my driving instructor, all I heard was, "Watch the curb, watch the curb. You're way too close," in a loving parental tone. I was watching the curb, but not the car waiting at the stop sign. When I realized, I panicked, and we bumped together. I don't remember much what happened afterwards, except that there was an ambulance, someone threw up, and my dad chased after the dog. I quit driving completely. Driving was never a necessity until halfway through college. UCLA wasn't too far from home, and I always had friends who gave me a lift on the weekends. I wonder how that all happened. One of my friends loved to park on the street that I lived on, which was one of the few free parking zones near UCLA, for up to 4 hours. She begged that I move her car for her because the meter maids of Westwood would come by vigilantly to chalk up the tires every 4 hours. Now, we will always do more to rescue others than for ourselves. Plus, I wasn't about to tell her that I haven't touched the steering wheel in 4 years. When I turned on the ignition, I started hyperventilating and threw up a little in my mouth. I pulled the car out slowly and inched my way forward. I parked her car once a week for the next year. Finding parking on the hilly streets of UCLA turned out to be the best training ground for my parallel parking. As my confidence with driving grew, so did many opportunities come to find me, this time in the form of a 12-passenger van. I helped organize a tutoring group which trained and transported UCLA students to local communities. When all the senior directors graduated, I was first in line to drive the 12-passenger van. It was such a thrill to go from 5 feet and 3 inches to 8 feet tall, seated, and behind the big wheels. I made sure that no one messed with me. If the crazy drivers of LA ever honked at me or gave me that "you are number one" sign, buddy, I just accelerated to get to where they want to go and waved at them from the rearview mirror. One day, our student commissioner came to visit us. I might have taken a couple of wide turns and sudden lane changes. She never came back again. At the end of the year's volunteers banquet, she presented me with the grand prize of the craziest driver. Since moving to Sacramento, where efficient public transportation has been non-existent when I need it, I've had to drive pretty much everywhere. Just a couple of months ago, as I pulled out of my company's parking lot, I waited at a stop sign to make a left turn. I never made that left turn because I collided with a black Mustang that was going forward. Now, I could have blamed it on the curvature of the road, that the sunlight was blurring my vision, or that the invisible car came out of nowhere to hit me. The reality, it was mostly my fault and completely avoidable. It might have taken much financial cost, $17,000 to be exact, and emotional trauma for me to realize that. Luckily, no one was hurt. In my wild and insensitive driving days, I used to make fun of people who drive slow. Now, I'm almost proud to be part of the Grandma's Driver League. It was an aha moment when I realized that all the accidents I've been in or occurred to people that I know were because we drove too fast. Maybe not for the speed limit, but for the circumstance. I'm here to officially thank Mom and Dad for their constant reminder, because my crazy driving days are over. Ms. Toastmaster.
Thank you.